Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Rockies Daily. I'm your host, Scott Ayers, where we're talking all things Colorado Rockies. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Now, with the week starting up, let's talk Rockies baseball, and let's talk about this World Baseball Classic. And look, rosters have been announced, and the Rockies are sending a slew of players to the World Baseball Classic. Honestly, there's some interesting selections. Some selections that I'm kind of excited for. Cole Carrick makes Team Israel, which I think for him is just going to be some sweet experience. We'll actually talk about him in the next segment as well. I'm really excited for Victor Vodnik in Team Mexico. Mexico and the USA will play during match or group play. And so for Vodnik, I think it'd be pretty sweet to see him have an opportunity to go against possibly the best team in this entire tournament. Obviously, Ezequiel Tovar and Antonio Senzatella both make Team Venezuela. But overall, it's going to be a pretty sweet experience to see some of these Rockies play on the national stage. They're sending about 10 players to play in the World Baseball Classic, which is 8 more than the Houston Astros, who are sending just 2 players. So if you thought to yourself, are the Rockies going to be able to send anyone? Send in more than the Houston Astros. If we can hang our hat on something, it's that. But yeah, it should be pretty fun. We are going to get Israel playing Venezuela. And so I'm excited to just see what is Cole Carrick going to be able to do on kind of this international scale of a tournament. Mexico versus USA. And then Canada versus Puerto Rico. The Rockies have 2 guys from Canada, and then Willie Castro is representing Puerto Rico. So overall, it's pretty sweet that we're getting this. It's cool to have some Rockies on that international stage. And then, of course, we talked about it last week, but the Rockies team is actually going to get a chance get their crack at Team USA on March 2nd, which we talked about. It feels like hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby-esque game, especially if some of their guys aren't going to play, like Tovar, right, where they're missing, they're starting shortstop, the Rockies. So with all that, it should be just fun to watch, and I know I'm going to try to go to a game like that for spring training. And if I'm not going, I want to try to watch, just for sheer entertainment value, which spring training you don't necessarily always get. But for games like this, yeah, you have to absolutely check them out, even if it's just exhibition. So overall, World Baseball Classic happening March 5th through the 17th. And then basically season's ready to go right after that. So it's a month away, and man, I wish it was here. But players are getting ready to report. Spring training is almost among us, and we got more information about who's actually going to be reporting to camp. The Rockies invited 6 prospects that are non-rostered to training camp. They also sent that invite out to other players as well, right? Like John Brebby and company. Some of those minor league contracts that we've mentioned have just an opportunity to see if they can play at the major league level. And of course, the biggest name is Charlie Condon, the number 2 prospect for the Colorado Rockies. Ethan Holiday being the number 1 prospect. Cole Carrick, who we just mentioned, the number 3 prospect. And then they also offered or sent the invite to Jared Thomas, who's our number 8 prospect. He's an outfielder. Sean Sullivan, number 12, left-handed pitcher. Connor Eaton, the number 21 prospect, who's also a left-handed pitcher. And then TJ Rumfield, the Rockies' number 29 prospect, first baseman, who the Rockies acquired in that trade with the Yankees just a couple weeks ago. So ultimately, it will be really interesting to see how these guys look in spring training. And again, we've seen guys play really well in spring training and then be just downright bad. Zach Veen's a great example last year. He was phenomenal in spring training, and I think got a lot of us excited. And he just really was a letdown last season, but I think for a guy like Veen, he's going to come back, hopefully make the most of an opportunity to play in spring training to try to have a relevant role for the Rockies this upcoming year. But for the guys that we mentioned, a lot of youth. Charlie Condon is 22. Cole Carrig is 23. And these are the two guys that you can expect to see in 2026, hopefully, for the Rockies. I think Rumfield also has a chance of finding his way onto this roster just because of that first base position. Is a lot less about how optimistic I am about Rumfield and much more about just a position group that isn't very good. But he will be competing with Charlie Condon, who, again, I'd love to see Condon spend a little bit more time at the minor league level and just continue to develop a little bit more, and then find his way up, around the All-Star break at the major league level. And then Cole Carrig, he's an outfielder. He can be a bit of a utility guy, and it will be really important to see what that development looks like for him. That's why I'm really excited. He's going to get the spring training invite and then play in the World Baseball Classic, right? Like, he's going to play on a pretty big stage. And so for him, it's a really good opportunity to get solid experience, and for the Rockies, get a better idea of what they can get and what to expect out of Cole Carrig. Obviously, exhibition at the end of the day, so you can't bank everything on it if he has a good or bad spring. But obviously, if he has a positive spring, that makes you feel a little bit better about everything. So, spring training is almost among us, and I think a lot of us are very excited that it's here. I know I am. Right, we've been doing this show for about a month and a half now. And look, there were some dog days of like, holy crap, how is baseball season not here? What is the rumor mill, right? Like, we just want to be able to talk about how these guys look and the play on the field and just being able to watch Rockies baseball. That's, I think, what we all want at the end of the day, and it's almost here. Rejoice. And then we're going to get a month into the season. It's like, maybe we can go back to those off-season days, but we don't complain. Baseball is baseball, and I can't wait for it to be here. So, spring training almost here. Excited to see how some of these guys do. And the Rockies made another signing in Connor Capel. He's going to get a minor league signing as well. And look, there's not a ton to say here about Capel. He last played in 2024. And he had 8 total at-bats. And so the Rockies have made just a slew of moves kind of at the minor league level, just to see and figure out some of these different guys' style of play, what might work. It kind of just goes into the method of the madness of what are the Rockies actually going to be able to bring to the table. And for Capel, I mean, he could very realistically just be a lifetime minor league player. He's had 178 at-bats at the major league level. Hit slash is about 247, 325, and a 393 slugging. And he's hit 5 home runs in his career with 20 career RBIs. So there's not much to write home about something like this. In any of these signings that the Rockies make, you just, you're just kind of just tossing a hat in the ring and hoping something blossoms or something big can happen from guys that just haven't developed to this point. So for Capel, even if he's a lifetime minor league guy, it's not the end of the world. Could be very much someone who doesn't even have a roster spot anywhere in the organization by the end of spring. But you obviously, you take a chance on something like this. Doesn't hurt if it doesn't work out. But nothing too crazy there. And then let's go into this last segment of the day. Some of the weekend news. Some of the news that we saw over the weekend. Paul Goldschmidt signs with the Yankees, a 1-year deal. We had previously talked about Goldschmidt, just in the fact of that first base position. So that pool for the Rockies does get a little bit smaller. And, more and more signs are pointing to maybe the Rockies don't make a move. Obviously, we're still a few days away from spring training happening here. They could always make a signing during spring training. But it just, something to note. That Goldschmidt is going to head back to the Yankees. Skubal, how about that? He wins his arbitrary case against the Tigers, who we talked about last week, for a record $32 million. And just a quick thing to note on, because we talked about, hey, the Tigers, that is an organization that you want to follow in step, right, of how they build out this playoff team, and really how they've kind of handled their roster, how Hinch has been able to manage that team. But this is one area I don't necessarily know if the Rockies want to follow in step with, is just the fact that, they're kind of they're butting heads with one of the best players in baseball, certainly the best pitcher in baseball. And for what? So they obviously lose this case. I have to pay him $32 million. He's been in the midst of different trade rumors. And so, yeah, I think for the Rockies, if they ever had someone of this caliber, and the closest thing was Arenado, you want to do everything possible to make that guy happy, especially when they're playing a pivotal role in helping you be a contender. And so, it's just a bit of a messy case in Detroit there. Also funny, speaking of Detroit, Javi Baez can't play in the World Baseball Classic because of he was smoking weed, right, or using marijuana somehow, right? I don't know how he's using it, but he was in 2023. He was caught with marijuana, and so he can't play in this World Baseball Classic. So there you go. Baez cannot compete. So there's a little Detroit news. And then Yasiel Puig was found guilty of obstruction of justice in a gambling case. And why is that relevant to the Rockies, to baseball, to sports? I think we could be in a little bit of trouble when it comes to this whole gambling thing, because it just feels like we get news stories every year of different players, some with some form of gambling, and man, it doesn't feel good, right? This is non-baseball related, but you see what happens with Giannis and the deal he just made with Kalshi, and he's now a stakeholder. And the more we get intertwined with gambling and sports gambling, in sports and everything, and I understand these players are going to get punished if they're caught or whatever, but we don't really know how deep it goes. I like to believe, hey, most of these guys aren't doing it. We're good. But the more we get intertwined with sports gambling and all of this, I don't know. We'll see. You just hope that we don't have the integrity of some of these sports and games going haywire. And I guess that's where I'll leave it at, right? It just, I don't know. It just feels kind of icky with some of the involvement of these players in gambling companies, right? Or, we'll get this serious case of a guy like, can't be in the league anymore. I mean, some of the stuff that happened in the NBA, and then like the next segment on ESPN is a DraftKings segment, or anywhere on TV, DraftKings, FanDuel, you name it. Name whatever gambling company you want. So as it just gets more intertwined, as it gets bigger, I think just more of these issues are going to come up, and there's going to be some interesting positioning from commissioners and everything like that of how they're going to want to position themselves to their league. So that's just a rambling about gambling. I can't do anything, for crying out loud. I just speak on Rockies Daily. But something worth noting as you go into this week. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Leave a like, leave a comment, leave your thoughts. What are you gambling on this week? I gotcha. Anyways, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you tomorrow.